They say motherhood is a journey, but let's be honest, sometimes it feels more like a roller coaster with no seatbelt. I bet you're like me, wondering why babies, or teens in my case, don't come with instruction manuals. Welcome to This Incredible Mom Life, the podcast that celebrates the beautiful chaos, quiet wins, messy moments, and everyday miracles of being a mom. I'm your host, Dummy, wellness coach, mom of 3 boys, and a passionate believer that you don't have to live at the mercy of PMS, burnout, or exhaustion. Join me every week as we hear the craziest and most unbelievable mom stories. I'll be sharing the huge accomplishments and triumphs of both our moms and their kids. We'll giggle, cheer on the kids, and discuss obstacles and lessons learned along the way. If you are struggling to be the best mom you can be, how open-minded are you to booking a free call with me? You don't have to live at the mercy of your cycle, and you definitely don't have to do it alone. Give yourself permission to let me be part of your support system. I believe that you weren't meant to just survive motherhood. You were meant to thrive in it. Welcome back to This Incredible Mom Life, where we talk about what women are really feeling, but rarely say out loud. Kayla Branstetter is an English instructor at Crowder College, where she teaches literature, creative nonfiction, and composition. She is a published writer with work appearing in more than 40 journals worldwide and the author of a creative nonfiction book. A TEDx speaker and educator, her work centers around women's health, narrative medicine, reproductive trauma, and the cultural expectations placed on women's bodies and resilience. She is currently completing a Doctorate of Education in Healthcare with research focused on narrative medicine in women's healthcare. Her forthcoming book, Don't Be an Athena, examines reproductive health, medical gaslighting, and the myth of silent endurance through storytelling, research, and at times dark humor. Don't Be an Athena is a book and advocacy platform that uses creative nonfiction, research, and lived experience to examine the women's reproductive health, infertility, and medical gaslighting and trauma. It challenges the cultural myth that women should power through pain without complaint, offering a more compassionate, narrative-driven model for healthcare and self-worth. The project supports education, dialogue, and systematic change around women's bodies and videos. Thank you, Kayla, for taking time out of your day to be here with me.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, this is a very important topic, I think, because it's so common. So we're going to get to that. But first, tell us who you are a mom to.
I have 2 daughters. I have an 11-year-old. Her name is Berlin. And then I have a 6, almost 7-year-old, Leah. And they're both competitive softball players. They love to read. They're artists. They keep me busy.
I'm sure they do. Well, share a mom story with us.
So both of my kids are in sports. They are both in competitive softball. And so my 6-year-old is doing what my 11-year-old is doing because that's what she wants to do. But over this past weekend, we had a softball tournament specifically just for my 6-year-old. She was excited that the whole family was there just for her. And she likes to play different positions, but she was playing outfield at this specific moment. And I caught her because there's always music playing, that her playing defense was just dancing in the outfield and just having the time of her life.
Awesome. Yes, every kid has a different personality, right? And
they do.
even if they think they have the same interests, they're probably a little bit different. But I'm glad you guys were all able to enjoy her game.
Yes. Yeah, she was so excited. Yeah, her personality, she is a strong personality.
Yes. Having 3 kids, I know that all 3 of them are different, right? Like, so yeah, let them be their individual selves and do what they love, right?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do now.
So I am an educator. I taught high school English for 10 years at a rural high school before moving into higher education. I do have two master's degree. I have a master's in education with an emphasis of secondary administration. All that means is I can be a high school principal. I had no desire to be a high school principal, but I do love building curriculum. So that's why I went into administration, is for curriculum development. I have another master's in art, literature, and culture. And I believe having a background in both administration, curriculum design, plus the humanities prepared me so well for my doctorate, which is a Doctorate of Education in healthcare. And I think people feel like, how do you go from teaching in the humanities to now healthcare? Um, and in some ways, it makes sense because my book, I spent 6 years on my book, narrative, nonfiction, and I accidentally found narrative medicine. And so now I'm taking that curriculum design background and that humanities background, and I'm marrying the two because I'm hoping to establish a narrative medicine certificate for a rural community college
Oh.
in literature. But my goal is I want to better streamline healthcare students' education. So when they do enroll at my community college, and they obviously need to have a humanities course, I can kind of custom make their humanities courses toward healthcare. And so that's my goal, is get this narrative medicine certificate to better help communication, understanding a diverse population of patients, and bring relevance to the humanities when they are taking these courses. Because I know college students, they look at the checklist like, why do I have to take this class? This class has nothing to do with my major. And so I'm adding value to that question of like, why do I need to take art appreciation? How is that going to help me become a nurse? How is that going to help me become a doctor? And just challenge that way of thinking when they do enroll in college.
Nice. And now you focus on women's health, right? So
Yes.
talk about how you got into that specialty.
Again, accident. So I think this was a lifetime of experience. I am a daughter of a teen mom. My mom had me at 16 years old in 1987 in rural Missouri, where that was taboo. You do not make those decisions. And tradition forced her to get married. But by the time I was 2, my mom developed agency and decided to file for divorce and create her own narrative. And that was, she did drop out of high school. In so many ways, we were the stereotypical statistics of teen pregnancy. My mom divorced. She was a high school dropout. She had her second child by the time she was 20. But in many ways, we did not fall into the teen pregnancy because I tell people we were poverty with a middle class mindset, which is completely different than generational poverty. And it was my mom's goal to prove everybody wrong, that yes, she was a teen mom, but that didn't define her. That didn't mean she was a bad mom. It doesn't mean she couldn't be successful. So she studied, achieved her GED when I was 4. She graduated with her associate's degree at the college that I'm now a professor at. So that's kind of a full circle moment. And then my stepdad was abusive, and we lived 10 years in that terror. But she did develop the courage to file for divorce when I was 10. And then when I was in 8th grade, she graduated with her bachelor's degree at a local university, and then she entered caseworking for 10 years. So her story shaped so much of who I am today, of like that judgment, and hearing her story as an adult when she went to her first doctor's appointment in a rural hospital, and that idea of tradition playing such a role in how we treat people also included the doctor, because it was almost like the doctor felt entitled to continue to add to my mother's pain. Mm-hmm. But later on, that doctor, I think, had a few malpractice lawsuits. So just the way that he treated women while deciding to go into the profession of treating women,
Yes,
it is mind blowing. So my mom decided to change doctors, and as a rural woman, she had to travel an hour 15 minutes to go get her care, and that's not much different today, unfortunately. And then when I started, I try to do everything the correct way. I try to follow society's rules, and I met my husband in college, and we got married. I had 1 year left of college. So going into my senior year, I started my career, started my first master's. So I had the degree, I had the career, I had the health insurance. It was time to have a baby. And that was easier said than done. Infertility, unexplained infertility happened. And I realized that even though I tried to follow society's strict narrative, it didn't exempt me from just life happening and still being judged by the same group of people who judged my mother for being a teen mom were judging me that I wasn't getting pregnant. And it just opened my eyes to why do we try so hard to fit into society's narratives? And I did have my daughter, my oldest daughter, without any fertility drugs, but I did have to go on progesterone for the first trimester. And that opened my eyes because I don't think I was educated enough on my body to understand the importance of what these hormones and the importance of how these hormones play into pregnancy. That was eye-opening to me because I've heard of estrogen, but I think the role of progesterone didn't really surface until I tried to get pregnant and did get pregnant. Second pregnancy, my progesterone levels were even lower, and I suffered a miscarriage. And that opened my eyes to just how women are treated and in the grieving process as a whole. I had to go through one procedure in between my miscarriage and my third pregnancy to check for blockages in my fallopian tubes. And I did have a blockage. I got pregnant with my second daughter, and it was actually I ovulated at the very fallopian tube that I had the blockage, and I suffered morning sickness the entire 9 months, and that opened up a whole other issue. And during my story, I decided to go public with infertility and miscarriages and progesterone and morning sickness and just everything that I was experiencing. And women started coming forward. They started communicating with me via like Facebook Messenger, and not about medical advice. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a doctor. I'm working on my Doctorate of Education. But I think more than anything, just to know that they weren't going crazy, that it was more of like that human connection, woman to woman, of what we were going through.
Personal experience.
Yes, and that's what it was. And so that's when I realized, okay, this is what women I think are needing, is just knowing that other women are going through similar experiences. You're not going crazy, and finding that human connection. So that's how I ended up in women's healthcare and women's narrative medicine.
Nice. I have a similar story. Like I got married young, thinking I was going to have kids young, and planned it all out. And it took me 5 years to have my first son. So I know that struggle, and I know even more from maybe from the Indian cultural perspective, like there was a lot of pressure for me to have kids. As soon as I got married, people were like, when are you having a kid? When are you having a kid? When are you having a kid? Why aren't you having a kid? Blah, blah, blah. It was all these questions. And as soon as I had my first son,
when are you having the next one?
I was expecting like a congratulations or this, that. They were like, okay, great. When's the next one coming? And I was like, wow, give me a minute to like breathe. But I totally understand that. So let's talk more about some of these challenges that we face as women in our culture, in the what's considered normal, like what the stigma is. Talk about some of those things.
When I was going through this, and I don't know if you had similar experiences, I tied my entire identity to my womb.
Yeah.
My entire identity was just what the capabilities of what my sex could do, and that was to have a baby. And this whole experience made me realize when it comes to infertility, I feel like women take the brunt of it all, even if there's a low sperm count on the men's side. Like we're the visible representation of infertility. And I was, I felt people were entitled to talk to me about my reproduction much more than they did not go to my husband, they came to me. And I received that. And similar to your story, I remember after I had my daughter, it was, when are you having another one? You need to have a boy. And then after I had my second daughter, it was, when are you going to give me a grandson? And then I just felt like it was a different type of stigma. I have two daughters, and people were like, well, you need to have a son. I'm like, no, I don't. I have two beautiful daughters, two healthy daughters. And even my doctor, after my second daughter, she goes, do people know what you look like pregnant? Because after I had my second daughter, then I was glowing. My hair was better because I wasn't sick anymore. And she goes, you don't do pregnant well. I'm like, I know I don't do pregnant well. You tell them that I don't do pregnant well. So I feel like just that stigma of, when are you having this next one? And like, I'm still trying to figure out feeding schedules and napping schedules. And I'm trying to function on 2 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And that just opened my eyes, because when I see women who are newly married, I never ask them when they're having kids. That's not for me to know. That's not my, I think it's rude at this point. And I think because that's what I've been through. And I want to advertise that stigma behind, just because there's a newly married couple doesn't mean that you as an outsider are entitled to ask them when they're going to have kids. That's a conversation for them. And if they're willing to talk about it, then you're there whenever they're ready. Until then, ask them about their honeymoon. Let's go out for coffee. I would say, just don't talk about when kids are coming.
Yeah. Because some people don't want them, right? Like I know my brother and sister-in-law, they don't want any. So, and there's other people who want them and can't have them, right? So there's a lot of different behind the scenes things going on. Mm-hmm. Now, in your book, you compare all these stigmas and cultural, I guess, things that we've made normal to the goddess Athena. So talk about Athena's story for a minute.
Yes. So Athena, her own conception is interesting. She came from Zeus's head, and she is highly regarded as the goddess of wisdom. In fact, you have Athens, Greece, who is named after the goddess Athena, that she sort of won after kind of going into a fight with the god Poseidon. And Poseidon plays a role in this as well. So Medusa, she was the only mortal sister of the three Gorgons. And she was described as absolutely gorgeous. She was beautiful. And I play on more of the Roman version of Medusa's story, specifically the poet Ovid. And in that, Medusa becomes this priestess to Athena. And her and Athena develop this close relationship. And Medusa she respected this goddess, and she was willing to serve the goddess. She was going to remain a virgin throughout her life to serve Athena. And it depends on which story you want to hear, because one story is Poseidon and Medusa fell in love. They consummated their relationship. She broke her vow to Athena, and Athena takes revenge on Medusa for breaking her vow. The other one is the one that I kind of go through, and that is Medusa was sexually assaulted by Poseidon in Athena's holy temple. And because of the patriarchal discourse going on with the Greek gods, and despite how powerful Athena is, she decides to take it out on Medusa instead of going after Poseidon. And then Medusa becomes this enigma of being this villain with this ability. She has snakes for hair. She's now no longer aesthetically pleasing, and she can turn men into stone. And it's interesting because it depends on how you view Athena on for her decision of Medusa. She took her anger out on Medusa, and instead she victimized her, turned her into this monster, and as a result, other victims came about. And later on, she plays such a role in Athena, or in Medusa's death, and that she gives Perseus the proper materials to defeat Medusa. And then when she's beheaded, you have even Medusa gives birth after her death. We have two children, that's Poseidon and Medusa's. But Athena takes her head and makes it into a shield, and she hides behind her. And so she kind of becomes the symbol of female rage. Or did Athena act, and as a parent, I'm guilty of this. I think a lot of parents can be guilty. Did she overreact out of her own, like, I wished I could protect you and I didn't? So the best way to protect you is almost overprotect. I'm going to give you all the skills that no man can ever do this to you again.
Right.
And both sides are toxic.
Yeah.
And how often do we treat women in similar ways, even in the 21st century, regardless of whatever culture you're from? Do we demonize women who have gone through something so traumatic? We blame them, we turn them into monsters. And as a result, we get generational curses that happen because we didn't empower them into becoming survivors. Or do we overreact and we try too hard to protect women? And again, overreacting, we're still not empowering them to become survivors and to take control over their own stories. And so that's the kind of the foundation of all the women I interviewed in their stories.
Yeah. So talk more a little bit about how you connected the story of Athena to the modern day women and culture.
So I interviewed a handful of women across the United States, and these women are from rural areas, urban areas, suburban areas, all walks of life, socioeconomic status, ethnicities, religions. And my goal was to highlight, as women, we're more connected than not. We experience a lot of the same issues.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, just like Athena, I feel like sometimes it's us as women who are holding women back. We are guilty of demonizing our own sex. And that's where I was like, I offer advice of, like, in this specific story of this woman, this is how an Athena is being happening. And then this is how we cannot be an Athena. And I address various reproductive issues, from teen pregnancy and how often do we turn teen moms into Medusas, and instead of offering the support that a teen mom needs, we remind them of their actions. And we don't need to be doing that. It's already done. They're pregnant. What good is it going to do to remind them of what they've done, instead of offering the correct support in making sure she's going to get her education, that she has transportation to her appointments, that there is support for her to go to college. We don't want her to be a college dropout who may not be able to get out of poverty. We need to find the proper structure and infrastructure to help her get out of that. And helping the mom is helping the baby. So
yes,
it is like, if you want to help this baby that's coming, we don't need to remind the mom of having sex outside of marriage. And what bothers me about that is it's always the woman. It's not the dad. It's like the dad can be off. Offer support, offer encouragement, and find ways to support her, because the goal is we want her to graduate high school. We would love for her to go to college, and empower and teach her how to be a mom. Like, that's overwhelming when you're 15, 16, 17 years old and surprise, here's this baby. So that's one way of being Athena, is we don't want to turn this teen mom into a statistic of poverty. We want to turn her into a statistic of empowerment and make her a good mom and give this child a chance of success. And not every teen mom has that type of support system. When it comes to miscarriages, I do address miscarriages on, I have that experience of what not to do. I think people make statements out of good intention or goodwill, and they don't realize how it comes across. So what is the best way to handle someone who has had a miscarriage? Sometimes it may be not saying anything at all. It could just be a shoulder to cry on. It could be maybe the mom really just needs somebody to vent to. It may not make sense. It doesn't need to make sense. I'm convinced that postpartum depression can happen even after miscarriage, because you have a lot of hormones
Oh, yeah.
going on. And I don't think that was explained to me. I had postpartum depression after my miscarriage, and I don't think that was explained to me fully. And it may not make sense to you what she's going through, but it makes sense to her at that moment of what her mental state is. And what she needs is an outlet to let it out. And it doesn't have to make sense. I talk about IVF, and the woman I interviewed with being an IVF, she's Jewish, and she said people would approach her and say, "Well, if God wanted to happen, it would have already happened." And
Right.
it's like, okay, but we have science, and why not? I mean, if that's her decision, and if in her faith, if God wants her to have a baby through IVF, then I think you need to respect her decision. And she talked about that there's a coldness to IVF. It's so
Hmm.
clinical. And she talks about that. And again, just support a person through their decision. I interviewed a woman who chose surrogacy, not that she was the woman having a surrogate, she was the surrogate, and the impact that had on her family, and trying to approach people that, yes, I'm pregnant, but no, the baby is not mine.
Right.
And she sees it as an opportunity to educate people who are coming to her. Women who don't want to be moms at all, how not to
Mhm.
be an Athena of they don't want to be a mom. They're still a woman. They still want to be
Yeah.
involved in the lives of children who, like, it could be children of their siblings, it could be children of their friends. They still want to be invited to their birthday parties. And I think that opened my eyes because I felt like I have friends who don't want to be parents, and it challenged my own thinking because I'm like, okay, my kids' birthdays are coming. They don't have kids. They're not going to want to come to a kid's birthday party. And I was wrong. I was in the wrong. They do want to come to the birthday
Yeah.
parties. They just don't want to be parents themselves.
Yep.
And so each one, I just try to provide advice. And it's okay that we can be reflective in the stories and realize, oh, I am guilty of that. Now I know I can change.
Yeah. Nice. It sounds like a really amazing book. So tell us more about when it's coming out and where people can find it.
It is being released July 16th, or no, not July 16th, July 20th. Sorry, I don't even know when my own book is being released. It's like the due dates had changed. July 20th. And it is available for pre-order right now. You can find it at my publisher's direct website, which is Ozark Hollow Press. And you can buy a paperback or hardcover. It's available at barnesandnoble.com in also paperback and hardcover. It's available on Amazon, but on Amazon, I believe it's only available as an ebook that can be downloaded to your Kindle. And so, yeah, right now, those are the three areas that you can find the book. You can go to my website, and I have the direct links to that as well.
Perfect. So we will put the links in the show notes so that everyone can reach them fairly quickly. If someone wants to connect with you or they have a question, where can they find you?
Instagram, my entire Instagram account is public. It right now there's a combination of book promotion, and there's always pictures of my kids. So there's always something that is highlighting mom life and career life and author life. But you can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, and I do have a public Facebook page. I'm not on there as much because navigating all the social media is a lot of work. But I do have a personal page, Kayla Branstetter. You can send me a friend request, and you can kind of figure out what I'm doing day to day. That shows my real life mixed with my professional life, mixed with my author life.
Nice. And I know there are so many moms in so many of these situations. So if any of you listening wants to get in touch with Kayla, go for it. Thank you again for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
This was great. And as we finish off, I just want to say, remember, taking care of yourself and your values is part of taking care of your family.
Mm-hmm.
So if anything resonated from this episode today, make sure to reach out or share it with a friend. And you guys will hear from me next week.
All right. Thank you.
Are you struggling to be the best mom you can be? Are you fatigued, overwhelmed, and stressed out? Are you losing precious time with your family because of PMS? If so, sign up for my free gift on how to start living in tune with your monthly cycle. The link to get it is in the show notes below. Use this guide to help you start to eliminate your symptoms of PMS, increase your energy, reduce stress, and fully enjoy this incredible mom life. The way I see it, you have 3 choices. You can try to figure it all out on your own. You can do nothing and stay where you are, or you can get the customized guidance you need to thrive as a mom. The choice is yours. Thanks for listening to today's episode. I hope you learned something from these stories. If you enjoyed this show, please make sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast. It really helps this show grow. If you have a mom story you would like to share, click on the link in the description below on becoming a podcast guest. Remember, the content on this podcast is for general information only. It does not replace any medical advice given by your healthcare providers. Please check with your doctor if you have any questions about your specific condition and before starting any new diet or exercise regimen. Thank you, and you will hear from me soon.